And what was that plan?
Well, they were going to ambush him as soon as he got in the vehicle.
All right. So ambush who?
Charles McCormick.
And when you say ambush, what does that mean?
Like, well, we call it run down.
Don't get feet wet or nothing, man. Niggas just be talking, man. These niggas, man.
That was the breaking point for ATK Scotty, but what exploded after had everybody's jaws hitting the floor like a mic drop you felt in your chest. This wasn't just another petty diss or subliminal. This was a straight-up detonation in the middle of Jacksonville's already shaky rap battlefield. In pure, unfiltered rage, Scotty jumped on Instagram Live, his voice shaking with that raw sting of betrayal, the kind you can't fake, calling out Yungeen Ace for leaving him hanging when he was at his lowest. You could see it in his eyes, that mix of hurt and fury that comes when someone you bled for turns their back.
Possible meaning that my nickname should be round.
And this wasn't some sneaky post, a sly emoji, or a coded lyric you gotta decode on Genius. Nah, Scotty stared dead into the camera lens like it was Ace himself, dropped his name with no hesitation, and made it crystal clear their so-called brotherhood was done. Period. No maybe, no we'll see. The chapter was closed and the lock was thrown away. And then just when the live was already shaking up the timeline, he went and did the unthinkable, flipping the entire city's expectations. Out of nowhere, Scotty showed public respect to Folio, Ace's most notorious arch rival and the face of KTA. In Jacksonville's street politics, that move wasn't just shade.
And was there a plan at that point in time for what was going to happen next?
Yes, sir.
And what was that plan?
Well, they were going to ambush him as soon as he got in the vehicle.
All right. So ambush who?
Charles McCormick.
And when you say ambush, what does that mean?
Like, well, we call it run down.
It was like walking across enemy lines, planting your flag, and daring the other side to do something about it. It wasn't just a clapback, it was a direct shot at the very foundation of Ace's crew. And trust, Ace wasn't about to let that slide quietly. That IG Live wasn't just a rant, it was a declaration of war in real time. But here's the thing, this wasn't just some heat-of-the-moment meltdown from a hurt homie. This was the final snap in a bond that had been forged in blood, loss, and the kind of street wars most people only see in headlines. Scotty, government name Leroy Whitaker Jr., wasn't just a background face in Ace's Instagram pics or a hype man on stage. He was the guy Ace called when the stakes were life or death. The one who'd pull up without hesitation, no questions asked, no paperwork trail, no hesitation in his step. In the street chain of command, Scotty wasn't just a soldier, he was an enforcer. The kind of loyal, fearless right-hand man bosses dream about. While Ace was in the booth laying down tracks about smoking ops, Scotty was the one folks whispered might have turned those bars into reality during Jacksonville's brutal ATK versus KTA beef.
What happened after Hakeem jumped out of the Nissan?
Shot at him.
Shot at who? Did McCormick stay there?
No.
What did he do?
Ran.
What did Hakeem Robinson do?
Chased him.
And then did what?
Killed him.
A feud so deep it wasn't just music beef anymore, it was generational, stretching back years and leaving a trail of bodies since 2017. In that world, every move, every post, every look carried weight, and Scotty's IG Live wasn't just words, it was a message. By the time Scotty went off on that Instagram Live, the damage had already been brewing for years. He wasn't just mad in the moment, he was boiling over from a long, slow burn. Since 2020, he'd been locked away, caged up behind cold steel and concrete, staring down the kind of charge that doesn't just end a rap career, it erases your whole life. First-degree murder, the kind of case where the courtroom feels like a death sentence even before the verdict drops, and the only way out is a miracle. For Scotty, that miracle never came. Life without parole was hanging over his head like a shadow that never moves, a dark cloud that followed him from sunrise to lights out every single day. From the moment the cuffs clicked shut, the grind started. Endless interrogations, hours in those cramped interview rooms where detectives try to peel you open piece by piece. The stale smell of coffee and desperation clinging to the walls. Night after night in that freezing cell, every sound amplified, every minute dragging like an hour.
Do you recall when you saw that information?
Yes, sir.
When was that?
It was on the morning of January 15, 2020.
So the morning he was killed.
Yes, sir.
Do you recall where you were when you found that information?
It was at my apartment.
Was anyone with you that morning?
Yes, sir.
The prosecutors kept coming with the pressure, leaning on him to fold, to take a shortcut, to snitch, to save himself. But Scotty never bit. No loose lips, no halfway moves, no sneaky deals in exchange for a lighter sentence. He stayed solid, the kind of solid that's rare when the stakes are this high, holding on to one core belief like it was his lifeline, that Ace would have his back the way he'd always had Ace's. In his mind, loyalty was a two-way street, and he'd already risked it all to prove his side. But when the legal fire started closing in, the picture began to change. Slowly at first, almost too slow to notice, Ace's presence started to fade. The steady visits that used to bring a little light into those gray walls became rare drop-ins, spaced further and further apart. The phone calls felt shorter, the outside support quieter, and then eventually, that silence started to feel permanent. From Scotty's perspective, the same man who once called him family was now moving in a different lane, chasing big-name features, rocking tours, and posting up with industry heavyweights while Scotty was stuck in a cell, watching the loyalty he counted on slip through his fingers like sand. Every day behind bars, counting the days turned into counting the people who still showed up. And Ace's name wasn't on that list anymore. The real fracture, the moment where the bond truly snapped, came after the guilty verdict in the murder of Charles Lil Buck McCormick, a killing back in 2020 that prosecutors painted as cold, deliberate revenge for the murder of Willie Addison, Ace's older brother. The state told the jury this wasn't just another chaotic street shootout. It was a carefully executed strike, carried out on the exact 1-year anniversary of Addison's death, a date chosen with intent. To Scotty, there was nothing random about it. This was personal, a mission soaked in loyalty, a move he believed would seal his place in Ace's corner forever.
17th of 2020, 2 days after the murder of Charles McCormick, which took place coincidentally exactly on the 1-year anniversary of Willie Addison's death. 365 days in a year. And he dies on January 15th of 2020. The bullseye on the calendar, and he was the target, and they took him out.
He thought he was doing more than standing up for his crew. He thought he was cementing a brotherhood in blood. But the reality hit harder than any sentence. With the gavel's echo still fresh in his ears, Scotty was now locked into a life sentence, no chance of parole, staring at the rest of his days through a small barred window. And as the cell door closed for good, so did the chapter with Ace. In Scotty's eyes, the man he'd gone to war for, the man he'd risked everything for, wasn't riding with him anymore. That wasn't just betrayal. That was a wound that cut deeper than the verdict itself. Prosecutors weren't just tossing wild theories into the wind. They came locked, loaded, and ready to put on a full-blown courtroom spectacle, the kind of case they'd been quietly piecing together like a crime drama with a guaranteed ending. And when they stepped up, they brought what they called undeniable proof, receipts so tight the jury barely had room to breathe. The DNA evidence alone hit like a spotlight in a dark room, a match with odds so staggering, greater than 700 billion to 1. It might as well have been Scotty's name, spray painted in neon across the crime scene. In their eyes, it wasn't just evidence. It was a smoking gun with his fingerprints glowing under blacklight. Then came the digital trail. Cell tower pings tracked his movements like breadcrumbs, painting a map from point A to the scene and back again. Surveillance footage stitched the story together frame by frame, showing a figure prosecutors said was Scotty, right there in the middle of it all. And just when it seemed like their case couldn't get any sharper, they dropped the hammer. Dominique Buddha Barner. Once knee-deep in ATK business, Buddha flipped the script completely, turning state's witness to save himself. In the eyes of the streets, it was the ultimate betrayal.
Look at it. It's an assault rifle. Okay? It's set to fire. That tab, set to fire, tells you everything about intent for that weapon is to be used. Not only is it set to fire, there is a live .223 caliber round chambered, one small muscle contraction of the finger away from discharge.
But in the eyes of the state, it was gold, a voice from inside the circle willing to spill the whole playbook. According to the prosecution, this wasn't some sloppy drive-by gone sideways. It was a hit planned with the precision of a military op. Weeks of setup, multiple cars placed like chess pieces, ready to move on cue. Timelines sync to the second, and then, the moment everything locked into place, the ambush. They claimed Scotty rolled up strapped with a rifle holding 26 rounds, locked and loaded for what they chillingly called a calculated execution. But the story didn't stop at the trigger pull. When the supposed getaway car wrecked, the situation spiraled into something out of a crime thriller. Prosecutors said Scotty and others bailed out and stormed into an elderly woman's home, forcing their way inside and dragging her further in to keep her from calling 911. The chaos left a mess, not just emotionally, but physically. And in that chaos, prosecutors claimed, Scotty left behind the one thing you can't talk your way out of, his DNA pressed into her clothes like an unshakable signature. Long before that explosive Instagram Live, Scotty was more than just muscle in ATK. He was the one Ace could call when things got past the point of talking. His loyalty wasn't built in a day. It was cemented in 2018 during one of the darkest chapters in Ace's life.
And then what do they find on Miss Buckley's clothing? Her pants. Blood. DNA. Food. Leroy Whitaker. Greater than 700 billion. His blood, after he jumps the fence, catches his leg, on her pants, in her home. She's never met him before that.
That summer night turned into a nightmare. Ace survived a brutal ambush that left his body riddled with 8 bullet wounds. It was a miracle he even made it out alive, but the cost was unbearable. His brother gone, his cousin gone, a close friend gone, 3 lives stolen in an instant. That night didn't just leave scars on Ace's body, it rewired him completely. From then on, every move he made was sharper, colder, and more calculated. ATK transformed into a battle-ready machine, a crew where every soldier had to be willing to move without hesitation. And in that machine, Scotty became the one Ace could trust with the most dangerous jobs. The kind of moves that didn't get posted online but changed the scoreboard in the street war. Because make no mistake, the ATK-KTA war wasn't just some petty back and forth between rappers. It was a relentless cycle of payback, fueled by Instagram Lives that taunted enemies in real time, diss tracks designed to humiliate, and viral videos meant to send a message without saying a word. Tracks like Who I Smoke weren't just music, they were open ledgers keeping score on lives lost. Every drop was a shot fired, and every response was another round loaded. Whole neighborhoods turned into battlegrounds where every parked car could hide an ambush, and every street corner could be the last one you stood on. While mothers were forced to pick out coffins and pastors prayed over grieving families, detectives were busy connecting dots, building charts, and quietly stacking cases. They weren't just looking at one shooting at a time. They were piecing together a years-long chain of bloodshed, waiting for the moment to hit both crews with the kind of RICO charges that erase whole organizations in one sweep. But behind the noise, the streaming numbers, the viral beefs, the comment sections lighting up, Scotty came face to face with the real rule of the streets. They ride with you only as long as it's convenient. Loyalty looks good in a caption, sounds powerful in a hook, but when the smoke clears and decades behind bars stop being a threat and start being your reality, those unbreakable bonds can dissolve overnight. Friends become ghosts, promises turn into excuses. So when Scotty went live that day, it wasn't just about Ace, it was about the whole code they'd once sworn by. His voice carried more than anger, it carried judgment, a verdict on the entire game. He was telling thousands of viewers that the same loyalty that made him one of the most feared names in Jacksonville was the same loyalty that left him stranded when it mattered most. That Instagram Live wasn't just a rant, it was a street sermon, a warning shot to anyone still naive enough to believe the code never breaks. And if you've been riding with this story so far, you already know the streets remember your wins, but they never forget your losses. So like, subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments, and send this to someone who needs to hear it, because this game isn't what it looks like on the highlight reel. I'll see you in the next one.